We have breaking news coming out of Australia, where reports say a gunman has taken about a dozen hostages in a cafe on one of Sydney's busiest streets. Australia TV right now is showing photos of staff and customers very upset, sobbing. They're being forced to stand with their hands pressed against the window of this cafe. You can see right there, the photos just coming in. A black flag with Arabic writing is also displayed. CCTV's Nathan King joins us now from the newsroom with more. And Nathan, I guess the big question on everyone's minds is ISIL behind this?
Well, there's an ISIL flag in the window of the Lindt Chocolate shop in the central business district of Sydney. So we don't know very much apart from that, except that the building is under siege, that we have reports over a dozen hostages. This cafe can hold up to about 50 people, we understand from local media. And remember that in September, there was a plot foiled, said the Australian authorities, that could have focused on this very place, Martin Place, in the central business district of Sydney. That 15 people were arrested, some have been charged as well in September about potentially a plot like this that we don't know where will end, and they said it was a very, very real and credible threat. Now, at that time, intelligence officials and Australian government officials have said that the plot may have been an ISIL plot to behead an Australian in public. So you can understand that the media in Australia, that the authorities are taking this very, very seriously and out of an abundance of caution are making sure that they check everything. Now, this happened around 9:45 local time, we understand from local media. Now, just to give you an idea of the area, Martin Place is right near the Reserve Bank of Australia. It's about a kilometre away from the Sydney Opera House, which we also understand has been evacuated. There was reports of a package there, a suspicious package, but as you know, in these situations, there is an abundance of caution. We're also getting reports from our colleagues in Australia that Sydney airspace has been locked down as well, and that there have been negotiations potentially inside the Lindt Cafe with the people there who have locked the doors and held up that ISIL flag about what exactly they want. There is even talk that they want to talk to Australian authorities, perhaps even as high up as the Prime Minister, Tony Abbott. Of course, these situations are ongoing. It is fluid. But Australia and Australian public were warned in the last few months that some sort of attack might be in the offing. A lot of people, I can tell you at that time, shrugged it off and said that it may be overreaction on part of the authorities. But we do also have to understand that at that time, there was a coalition being formed of countries who were willing to take on ISIL in Iraq and Syria, and Australia really did step up to the plate. The only Asia-Pacific nation to date that has actually signed up forces to go into Iraq to support the American-led initiative. Is this blowback? We don't know. But it is obviously being taken very, very seriously by authorities, and this is an ongoing situation on a busy Monday morning in Sydney, Australia, where an unknown number, but at least a dozen, we understand, people are inside that coffee shop, and that includes the staff. And we have, as you can see from the pictures that we've been showing you, a standoff with police. Now, I just also want to tell you, these pictures are coming to us from Channel 7 in Sydney. Why do I mention that? Because Channel 7 is actually based right there, just a few hundred metres from this coffee shop that we're talking about. Is this a propaganda exercise? You know, if you were going to choose a target, you couldn't get more central for propaganda reasons. So everyone is being very careful, especially with the information that came out of this potential plot in September about some sort of random beheading in the middle of Sydney. People are very, very nervous indeed. You know, in other situations that we've had here before, these can go in several different ways. The standoffs can last hours, if not longer. As you know, Islamic State, as they call themselves, or ISIL as we call them here on CCTV, are a relatively new group. Mainly their atrocities against Westerners have been focused, as we've seen from the beheadings in Syria and Iraq. This would be a very, very dangerous and fraught and frightening development if They were seen to strike, of course, in the heart of a country as far away from the Islamic State's battleground, as if you like, as Australia.
Nathan, I was just going to say, let's remind our viewers that Australia is a seemingly pretty safe place. They don't see the violence on the streets. They don't have the guns. They're not used to this, and especially on a Monday morning, this must be terrifying and shocking. But again, we're not saying that it is ISIL behind it, but ISIL has promised to go beyond its borders and to create more horrific acts.
I think you're right. Let's not draw conclusions, but there is something going on. And whether it's just pure propaganda or something more serious, time will tell. But an Islamic flag like that being held up in a coffee shop, a Belgian-branded coffee shop in the middle of downtown Sydney on a Monday morning is extremely frightening and resonating, of course, around the world. I understand from my Australian colleagues that, you know, even though they had been warned about this, that there was a potential threat, that really Sydney is really reacting to this with sheer disbelief. You know, you can see the pictures, sunny day in Sydney, everyone's getting ready for work, going to work, and then suddenly the entire central business district around there, where, as I said, where the Reserve Bank is, where several international commercial banks just not too far from the Sydney Harbour and the Sydney Opera House, a very pleasant place to be under normal circumstances, is now under siege and lockdown.